Phillies are 2008 World Champions of baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Press Box Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Wednesday, April the 3rd, 2024. Welcome to the Philly Press Box Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Cavs, Philly Tailgates, and the Edge of Philly Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. Hey, Chet, the Phillies started the season rough with 2 bad losses against the Braves, but bounced back with 2 wins. The Sixers got Joel Embiid back last night, and they got a win. The Eagles dealt away fan favorite Hassan Reddick, and the Flyers, wow, what a week. The Final Four is coming. The women's Final Four is taking center stage with that Caitlin Clark putting on a show night after night. Plenty to talk about in Philly sports and in just sports in general.
Got to tell you, Bill, we needed those Sixers and Phillies wins Tuesday night badly. Getting Joel back, of course, was huge for the Sixers, giving us all at least a little bit of hope for the postseason. And watching Bryce do what he did, after starting so poorly the first 3 games that he played, that was pretty cool too. But Bill, shame on you. You left out the major Philly sports story. WrestleMania, of course, happening in Philadelphia all weekend long. Get excited.
Well, I'm not excited about that, Chet, but there are a few people in my house that are, and one is making the trip to Philly for the weekend to do a little WrestleMania. Hopefully that weather that I keep hearing about, it's been raining for a month up there, doesn't happen this weekend.
It's supposed to finally clear up a little bit by Friday, so it should at least be pretty much rain-free all weekend, and the Philly economy getting a nice boost thanks to WrestleMania.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we have a couple great guests tonight making return visits to Philly Press Box Radio, and Bill Meltzer to talk Flyers, Mike Conroy to talk the class of 2024 Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame inductees, and the Darren Dalton Foundation.
Yeah, Mike's going to tell us all about that. That Dalton thing happening in about 2 weeks. That's a cool event. I will be there. But we're talking hockey first, Bill. Let's drop the puck.
Let's do it. Let's get started. Welcome Bill Meltzer back to Philly Press Box Radio. Bill, welcome.
How's it going? Bill and Chad, always good to talk to you guys.
Likewise. Bill, welcome back. Interesting times on the Flyers front, certainly, as the season winds down and they try to hang on to that playoff berth. And now we just might have a goalie controversy. A very impressive 2+ period debut by the big 6'7" Russian the other night, Ivan Fedotov. I'm assuming we'll see him either Friday or Saturday because it's a back-to-back situation. How's this all going to play out between the pipes the next couple of weeks?
I think for sure you'll see them split the 2 games. Which one will get Columbus, which one will get Buffalo, I don't know. I kind of think you might see Fedotov go again on Friday. Hesitate to admit he's the hot hand, but certainly, but certainly there's just a certain dramatic effect to it as well. But also, he showed some promise. I mean, being as big as he is, he takes up so much of the net. No one in the league has pre-scouts on him, scouting reports, so there's no book on him yet. That could be an advantage for a goalie, for a little while. And one thing that he showed, and I guess a hint of this was the fact that in his career in Russia, he had at least 1 point in I think 5 straight years. He's a good puck handling goalie. The Flyers were killing a penalty, and he cleared the puck all 200 feet down the ice. So that's it's been a while since we've had a really good puck handling goalie. So that's something to actually watch as well. I think that with Samuel Ersson, and we saw a little bit last year with the Phantoms too. Late last season, he seemed a little bit gassed, and I think the same thing has been going on with Sam this year too. Saves that he'd been making, he has not been at the top of his game recently. That hasn't been the Flyers' only problem by any stretch of the imagination, but it's been a problem. They're not goals are at a premium. You need the saves, and they've had they had that stretch of 7 straight games, that gauntlet as they were calling it, against all the top teams in the East, and then you have games against Montreal and Chicago, and you give all due respect to a team, but these are teams you should beat, right?
Yep.
And not only did they beat them, they didn't come ready to play. In Montreal, not only are they losing 2-0 at the end of the first period, they only had 4 shots in that first period. That's just not being ready to come out and play. Same thing, Chicago. And Chicago is one of the 2 or 3 bottom teams in the league. Once again, you're down 2-0 at the end of the first period, and once again, you're chasing a game and trying to climb uphill. And even against a bottom team, if you keep opening the door for them, right, eventually there's going to be too much to come back from, and that's kind of what happened in that game too. We've talked a lot about the power play this year. There's been a struggle all year, and now suddenly the penalty kill, which had been so good all year, had been number 1 in the league actually until very recently. Now the penalty kill the last 12 games has been a struggle. So they have a lot of things they need to get back on track in a hurry. They want to make a playoff spot here.
Well, Bill, Chet and I sat here last Wednesday when Chet announced that you were going to be with us, and we said we're going to know an awful lot about this team by the time we meet with Bill next Wednesday. We certainly didn't think they'd be on a 5-game losing streak and 2-5-3 in their last 10. What do we know about this team? Are they capable of pulling this thing out down the stretch, or have they run out of gas?
That's more my concern is, are they a little out of gas right now? Now, though, they have the 3 days off. That has to help, right? They will come out with a back-to-back. I do think that with a lot of guys, sheer number of minutes some of these guys have played have really had an effect. You look down this stretch back in March, and the Flyers, don't forget, the Flyers have been playing short a lot of defensemen. They finally have 2 of them back. Nick Steeler is back, and Jamie Drysdale just came back. But throughout the month of March, you had Cam York playing 26, once or twice 28 minutes a night. And it's going to add up when you have that number of games in that short a period of time. Travis Sanheim is another one. And honestly, people wondered what happened with Sean Couturier. And I mean, even before, it seemed like he hurt his shoulder last game. But even before that, well, why did he drop off the map, right? Well, he dropped off the map because through the first 40 games of the season, the first half of the season, and he was playing like himself. Like you would expect Sean Couturier before the back end, the 2 surgeries on his back, right? But he was putting up 3 points for every 4 games, playing really strong 2-way hockey, all the things you associate with Sean Couturier. Also playing more than 20 minutes a night. And to me, it's like if you have an ace pitcher, a veteran ace pitcher coming off of 2 years of arm trouble, and I know no pitchers in baseball pitch on 3 days rest anymore, or pitch on a pace to pitch 300 innings. But I'm just saying that if you had an ace pitcher with 2 years of arm trouble, right, and you're pitching on 3 days rest for half a season, you expect him to hit a wall in the second half, right? That's what happened with Coots. Really, he just hit a wall and hasn't been able to get it back. I hope that I hope some of these other guys they can kind of work through this. They need to do it in a hurry. So,
Bill, let me ask you what you think about what the coach did the other night after that overtime loss. He basically called out the whole team, called them, playing soft. They didn't really play at all. Pretty much everybody except the goalie. What did you think of that approach by him? He's taking some, heat from it from some people. Others say it's the right thing to do, but he might lose the team. What's your take on it?
Well, I think I don't think there's any one particular thing. After the loss to Chicago, it looked to me like he tried to take the understanding approach, talking about how many minutes guys had played and whatever, right? They weren't better against the Islanders, particularly in that second period, where it was Fedotov and nothing else for more than 20 minutes of that game. Mm-hmm. So I don't blame him for being frustrated and upset with the team. But again, everything kind of bounces on two sides, right? After the Chicago game, Torch was asked, was the team prepared to play Montreal and to play Chicago. And he said, well, it wasn't the preparation. And if you want to be critical, you go, well, the head coach is the one responsible for preparation. So you could interpret that as, don't blame me.
Yeah.
Right. And then the next game, you're ripping your players. I mean, honestly, I don't think it was out of order for him to rip his team after that game, because they kind of deserved it. They kind of had it coming. What was interesting is, where he's talking about certain guys who just might not have it in them to play. You learn a lot about guys, whether for better or for worse. You put them in big games and see how they play. Then I think the natural place everybody's mind goes, okay, well, who's he talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then you look at, okay, well, Joel Farabee was dropped to the fourth line, and he basically sat on the bench for a lot of the second half of that game. So I think Joel Farabee would be one of the guys he's talking about. Travis Konecny's still pretty banged up. I don't think Konecny's been quite right since. Remember he missed 6 games with an injury, and he's scored some goals since he's come back, but he hasn't been played at quite that same level that he had before the injury. I wouldn't think he'd hold a guy who clearly is kind of battling through something, but he did sit on the bench for the first 7 minutes of the third period. So I think there was just a lot of it was driven by frustration, and a lot of it is just challenging guys, and that is part of a coach's job. Other side of that is you only have so many buttons to push, right? And when you push them enough times where it starts losing effect, that's where we worry maybe about a coach losing a team. It's only been it's only his second year here, and the other part of it being too that listen, before, through that stretch of 7 games against top teams, the Flyers were playing some good hockey. They weren't winning all those games, but they were playing good games at the most important time of the year. I don't think that after a couple of bad games, even against teams that you really ought to beat, I don't think everything just flies out the window either. I think that everyone needs to take a little deep breath and go, and I know one game at a time is a total cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. A cliche because it's true, right? Yeah. And the outlook can change very quickly based on how 1 or 2 games turn out. That's how the Flyers just have to view it from here on out.
Well, hey Bill, I want to take the same topic back a couple weeks. I thought the benching of Sean Couturier was risky, really risky. Maybe he's not playing as well as you want him to play, and we know how Tortorella is. But do you handle that behind closed doors, because you risk losing your team?
You do
at that point. Atkinson, a lot of healthy scratches for him as well. Some veteran players. And I know I don't have the exact record since they sat Couturier. I know they won the first game after that, but they have not played well since. And I think that all plays into it.
I do think that in terms of the ebb and flow of the season, right, and in terms of the, Couturier is such a well-respected player in the room,
right?
He gets the C, and almost immediately his ice time drops, and he definitely has not been the same since. I mean, to me, I know exactly where the drop off point was. He missed in mid-January. He missed 2 games with an injury, and that's where the drop off point was. He was not been the same at all since then. It kind of went right off a cliff, right after that. Now. He's a guy who does not believe whatsoever in making excuses. He said, he'll never say, it was a physical call. He'll never say they kind of burned the candle at both ends of them in the first half and he kind of wore down and hit a wall in the second half. He'll never make excuses. Even when they dropped him to the fourth line, he didn't complain. It was really just kind of all of a sudden he's scratched and. One thing with John Tortorella, which is a little different method than other coaches, is that Tortorella doesn't mind confrontation with players, but he wants a player to initiate it. What he'll do is he'll poke and he'll prod and he'll keep pushing your buttons, and he wants the player to be the one to initiate it. Remember, it happened earlier this year with Morgan Frost. He kept scratching him, and when Frost actually took the initiative to go into Tortorella's office and advocate for himself a little bit, and they had it out a little bit, Frost has been second on the team in points since then.
Yep.
Had the turnover in overtime too, but he had the goal that tied the game with 9 seconds left the other night too. Maybe that's kind of what he wanted from Couturier too. He wanted Couturier to knock at his office door and say, "Hey, can I talk to you?" But every player is different. I mean, like look at the breakout year that Cam York has had this year, and by last year, sometimes like on practice days, Torts will give you a lot more than he'll give you on other days. And usually there's a couple days before a game, he'll be a little bit more relaxed. He'll be more willing to talk. And last year, the latter part of the season, he was saying, first of all, that he doesn't know what he has in Cam York. He didn't like the way he was playing. But he basically said that he's been trying to push his buttons for a while. And, York has the whole kind of California cool thing. Everything rolls off his back. He wasn't taking the bait. He would push at York, and York would just kind of, And he's seen this year that there is how much, what a competitive guy he is, how much fires at the inside, even if he doesn't show on the outside. So they're in a good place. So the point being that there's different ways you can get there, right? Last year he benched Travis Sanheim in front of his family when they had a game in Calgary. His twin brother was in the stands, and that embarrassed them. And then they kind of had their conversation, and it's been a lot better between them ever since. So just because things kind of get to a rocky place doesn't mean it can't get better either.
Hey, Bill, who is the most impressive Flyer or most pleasant surprise on the Flyers this year, and who's the most disappointing?
Let's see. For most pleasant surprise, I would just, he's a veteran, but they asked Nick Seeler to play a bigger role this year. He went from a third pairing guy to being on that second pair for a long time with Sean Walker. And by the way, that's a big part of the reason why the Flyers have hit a wall, because they traded Walker, and then Steeler was missing 11 games due to injury. And that was really their second defensive pair. So that really hurt. But I think Steeler taking on so much of a bigger role to where, he ended up getting a contract extension to where he's coming into the year, he's probably just going to play out his contract, and they let him walk, and they decided this is a guy we want to be part of this moving forward. Biggest disappointment this year. I wouldn't say it's been a disappointing whole year. In fact, he was very good in the first half. I was hoping for a little more out of Joel Farabee since the All-Star break, and for a while he was still getting a lot of chances, doing a lot of things the right way. Things, it kept seeming like he'd break through again, and then eventually I think a frustration point hit with him where, I know squeezing the stick again, that's a cliche, but it just felt like something was a little off with Joel. And and if you remember, as this run began, this stretch of games against top teams, he had a 2-goal game in Boston, that game where the Flyers almost had that big comeback in the third period, and Joel was a big part of that. And said, okay, this is the Joel Farabee we saw in the first half. Games since then have been a bit disappointing, and he's back down in the fourth line again. Now that's not an ending to the story, though. There's still enough time where he can redeem himself. But I was hoping we carry through that consistency from beginning to end.
Bill, you mentioned Cam York, and I was going to put him in with this other group with Bobby Brink and Tyson Forster. How do you feel about the development of those really young kids? It seems like they've had peaks and valleys, but overall they seem to have gotten a lot better. Yeah,
and actually, Forster's a good. I wouldn't say a total surprise, because he came up for 8 games last year and showed a lot of promise and was an all-star in the American League last year, so it's not totally a surprise. But here he is. It's not a shock that he has 20 goals, because he's always been a goal scorer. But what a good two-way player he's been, and how good he's been in 50-50 puck battles at the wall, and how good he's been when he has to back check too, coming back on play. Remember, he wasn't scoring much at first, but just those other small details were keeping him in the lineup, and really kind of since the middle of the season, the goal scoring part has come out too. So that's been a very encouraging development this year. I discussed York. As a matter of fact, I think York has a decent shot of winning the Barry Ashby Trophy this year. If it won't be Cam, it'll be Travis Sanheim. You can make a case for one guy or for the other, but I think Cam has a pretty decent shot at that. So he'd certainly be up there. Bobby Brink had a very good training camp, very good start to the season, and then he's kind of been in and out of the lineup, in and out of the doghouse a little bit too. As much about his checking game as anything else. So he's still developing. I think he might be back in the lineup, maybe even as soon as next game. There's no doubt how good he is at setting up plays, seeing the ice well. When he's got his mind set to it, getting himself into scoring position. He can do all those. I can do all those things. I just think you need a little more development, a little more consistency. But I don't think he's far off at all.
Hey, Bill, last thing from me, as I put the standings up, we're coming down the home stretch. As you know, 6 games left for the Flyers, including the back-to-back this weekend, a season finale against the Capitals. How does this turn out for the Orange and Black?
Well, this could very easily come down to the last game of the season with the Flyers and the Capitals. Listen, the Capitals control their own destiny here, right? Because they have 2 games in hand on the Flyers. When they come into Philly for the final game of the season, the Caps will be on the back-to-back. The Flyers will have a little bit of rest before then. Detroit's all over the map. They got ice cold too. They went through about a 7-game losing streak, and now they're winning some games again. Here the Islanders are kind of knocking on the door because they won back-to-back. I still don't think the Penguins are doing this, yeah. but I think that really, the Flyers. The Flyers, to the extent of getting into the playoffs, I don't know about winning. I don't know about finishing third anymore in the Metro because they're going to need help with that.
Right.
But in terms of getting in the playoffs, they still control their own destiny. But I still think it comes down to that last game against Washington. And I don't see a 2010 scenario where you're in the playoffs. Who knows? Well, maybe you'll make the finals. Just making the playoffs would be a nice accomplishment this year.
Yes, it would.
Yeah. Well, hey, Bill, I was going to say that, we're 2 weeks out. I don't think anybody thought we'd be having a playoff conversation when the season started. For me, having watched just about every one of the games, I'm going to be really disappointed if they don't make the playoffs because they played so well for almost the whole season to deserve to be in there. What about you? Is it a disappointment if they end up falling out?
Yes, it certainly is a short-term disappointment because you're there all year long and they were so much in control of that automatic playoff bid. Yep. To me at this point, it doesn't matter if they play the Rangers or if they play Carolina, just so long as they get in. It'll certainly be disappointment if it slips through their fingers and they end up not in the playoffs. In the bigger picture, I mean, there's still going to be work to do no matter what, because even though they're maybe a little bit ahead of where you thought the rebuild might be at this point, it's still a rebuild. They still need more pieces in place. Yeah. We'll see where they're at when Matvei Michkov comes over here. They still need a first, a number one center. I think Frost has shown he could be a second center. I don't think he's a 1. I think he's a good 2. But you need that one center. That's such a key piece. They don't grow on trees. That the whole thing with Gauthier was a setback in that way because, didn't want to play here. They had to make the best trade that they could. Okay, but who's their number one center going forward? And I don't know. I don't know who that's going to be. So there's a lot of work that's still to be done is the point.
Gotcha. Well, hey, Bill, before we let you go, let the people know where they can follow you on all your social media platforms, everything you got going on, so they can read up on these Flyers.
On Twitter X, I'm at Bill Meltzer. You can find my stuff on the Flyers official website, flyers.nhl.com, basically every day. And also, I'm the content manager for the Philadelphia Flyers Alumni Association, which is flyersalumni.net.
Fantastic. Well, Bill, as always, thanks for joining us. Great, always great insight. We really enjoy having you with us.
Always a pleasure, guys.
All right, thanks,
Bill. Bill, before you go, I'm going to play this for you while you're still there. This is a friend of yours.
Hey, Bill and Chet, I heard you got a birthday or anniversary coming up. 10 years of doing this. Great job. Philly Press Box Radio, great job. It's always great to talk to knowledgeable sports fans. Keep up the good work, and here's to 10 more great years.
It's a good man right there.
Awesome, and belated happy birthday to Marshy. It was just the other day.
Oh, how about that? Yeah, we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary of doing this later this month. So we got that awesome from Brad and a couple other of our frequent guests. So that was nice.
Great stuff.
All right, thanks, Bill.
Take care.
All right, Chet, let's give a shout out to all the shows at the Edge of Philly Sports Network this week. The gang, as always, has all the bases covered. You can watch all the action on www.eopsports.com, as well as Edge of Philly Sports on YouTube. You can also find our show on the Philly Press Box Radio YouTube channel. Please help us out by hitting those subscribe, follow, and like buttons. And as always, share with your family and friends. As you can see, there's more and more going on at Edge of Philly every week, and we continue to grow. We're adding shows, we're adding people, we're adding content, got a lot going on. So check us out. Don't forget to subscribe to the Edge of Philly Sports Weekly newsletter. Sign up for free. You'll receive the EOP weekly review in your email every Friday morning. Hey, Chet, with that, what we got going on over at the Irish Rover Station House this week?
Plenty as usual, Bill. You know that. The Irish Rover has terrific Thursday through Sunday dinner specials. That's every single week. And by the way, a lot of new additions to their menu recently. There you'll see this week's specials: meatloaf, DMAC chicken dinner, a couple other items up there. You know this too. They have Quizzo and prime rib dinners every Wednesday evening and live music on Saturday. And how about this? This Sunday, it is the first yoga and drinks event of the season at the Rover. Namaste. The Irish Rover Station House is on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. Check the website, irishroverstationhouse.com. There you go, Bill.
Who can't get into yoga and drinks? You know what I mean? I tell you what, good thinking.
$20 and you get a drink and you feel good. You're all stretched out. I love it.
There you go. There you go. All right, Chet. The Sixers, they got Joel Embiid back last night at long last. They did play without Tyrese. And a win over the Thunder. Embiid's numbers, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists in 29 minutes. What do you make of it? Is their life?
Well, it was huge, obviously, getting the big guy back there. He is last night. He had the tight hair going. He played really well, I thought. 29 minutes, as you said, 24 points. I mean, that's not bad for a guy who hadn't played in just over 2 months, believe it or not. Yeah, he was a little winded. I would be too if I'm banging around, other big guys. But he was 12 for 12 from the free throw line. And he's just a defensive presence also. So I thought it was a great first game back. Now, they got Miami tomorrow night, and he's going to be very sore today. I mean, let's not start any rumors, but there's already the fact that he and Maxey and Tobias Harris are all listed as questionable for tomorrow night. We're hoping they all play, especially the big guy, and hopefully Maxey's back too after missing a couple of games. Because the team that I'm talking about, the Heat, is the one that they're battling with right now in the 7 and 8 spots, both of them behind the Pacers. As I put up the standings right there, you see the full Eastern Conference standings, well, the top 10 teams anyway. But really, the Pacers, Heat, and Sixers are going to finish 6, 7, and 8 in some order. So beating the Heat Thursday night in Miami would be huge for the Sixers.
Yeah, they need to climb back in that 6 spot. They need him. They need, if it were me, they would need to be playing the rest of these games like their playoff games. They need to play in to that 6 spot and not be happy sitting at 7 or 8.
Yeah, and the way it works, whether you finish 7 or 8, you still have a shot to finish 7 because of the way that little play-in tournament goes. So at the end of all that, though, you want to be at least in 7 if you didn't make it to 6 beforehand, because if you're in 8, you play the Celtics in the official round 1, and I don't care how healthy they are, they're not going to beat the Celtics right now. So get to 6, ideally 7 if you can't get to 6.
Yeah, and guys being hurt like this down the stretch is just really not good. Now, Harris played last night, but now he's hurt today. Is that the deal?
Yeah, I didn't hear anything about Harris, so I don't know what happened there, but Bill, I heard that 6 is afraid of 7 because 7, 8, 9.
Yeah, I heard that somewhere in about the 4th grade or something. Was that on the Academy Awards show? I forget.
I'm sorry.
Well, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out for the Sixers over the next week. With if Embiid can go, they certainly have a chance. If he can't or can't go much, it ain't gonna happen for him.
It's going to be interesting, though. But he did look good, other than being, winded. Had a few turnovers, but, he was still getting back into things. And remember, he has not yet played until last night with Campaign or the new guy from Nova and
Kyle Lowry.
And Buddy Hield also. Yeah, Kyle
Yep.
Lowry. So he's still getting used to all these guys. Lowry said he stood around for a while just watching him because he didn't know how to play with him. So he's figuring out where he likes to be on the court. And I think Lowry and he are going to work together well. And I think Hield and Embiid are going to work together. And, of course, getting Maxey back, which I think will be, if not tomorrow, certainly this weekend, is going to be huge.
All right. We'll see. They have their work cut out for them. Hey, speaking of work cut out for them, the Eagles, they didn't give in to Hassan Reddick's extension demands, gave him what he apparently wanted, a trade to the New York Jets. The Eagles get a 2026 third-round pick that could become a second-round pick if Reddick plays 67.5% of the Jets' defensive snaps. You good with this move or no?
No, I'm not. I don't like it. I think Howie got outmaneuvered on this one. I mean, yeah, we got Huff from the Jets. They get Reddick. I know Reddick's going to be 30 when the season starts. Huff is a little younger, but Huff's only had one good season, and it was basically as a pass rusher. They didn't even use him against the run. I would have hung on to Reddick even if it was just that final year of the contract. I don't think he would have dogged it. I don't think he would have held out. I would have kept him around. I mean, now you're getting what, a future third-round pick, maybe a second, but still, I would have kept him around and, see if he could play with Huff or I don't know. I'm disappointed in this move, Bill.
I'm not. Because
You're not?
No,
Explain
I'm not. Well, I'm not because I don't think he wanted to be here or he wanted all the money. So let's just say this. He's got 1 year left on his deal, makes him 31 years old. He wants an extension. So now he gets 2 more years. Now he's 33 years old. At the same time, he wants to be paid in the top 5 or 8 or 3 or whatever, some exorbitant amount of money. Now you've got a 32, 33-year-old guy that can't get it done, who didn't have a great year this past year.
You still had 11 sacks, which led the team.
Yes, well, yeah. But now all of a sudden you've got a guy that can't play, and you're locked into him. I don't have a real problem with it. If he didn't want to stand up to his contract, that's okay. That's his prerogative. But he seemed to want to go. And if you want to go, go. They made him happy.
Yeah, okay. We can disagree on this one. I think Howie missed the boat.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out what the other guy can do, won't we?
We sure will. They still need to make some more moves on defense, Bill.
Oh, absolutely. And they tried to do a little bit with that. They extended Reed Blankenship. I like this move. Before the bottom fell out of the season, Blankenship was being talked about as a Pro Bowl player. He's a good young player. Was probably the best guy they had back there for most of the year before the bottom fell out.
Yeah, I don't think he's really, a great player yet. I don't know about the Pro Bowl talk that was around, but he's okay. He's okay. But to be honest, a lot of that defensive secondary is just okay at this point. Slay's getting older. Bradbury had an awful year. He lost more than one step. He lost 3 or 4 steps, and so far he is still on the roster. Sidney Brown's coming back off an injury. You got that Isaiah Rodgers guy who, got suspended from the league. He had been with the Colts. Have you heard anything about that? He still has to be approved by the league, I guess.
Right.
I assume that's going to happen. I think Jeffrey Lurie thought it was going to happen. Is he good? Do we know?
Yeah, I think he is. I think it's the formal clearing, that comes from the league, but I think he's just got to serve his time and then he's good to go.
Hey, one other thing, speaking of football, this has not come from the NFL yet, but there were a couple of reports the other day that the NFL, despite denying it previously, is now thinking about or planning on playing 2 games on Christmas Day this year, which falls on a Wednesday. I don't know how they're going to do that with, the schedule. giving teams the appropriate time off. I know it's a money grab, but man, I don't like that in the middle of the week.
I hate the NFL.
Fine if it's a Monday or a Friday or a Saturday, but not on a Wednesday. Come on.
I hate the NFL.
Yeah,
I
love
do.
it, but you hate it. I know.
No, I love the games. I hate the business, and it just keeps getting worse. And I hate it more and more with stuff like that, and the more pay-per-view games and all that stuff that's going the league. It's a business. People are sucked into because we're all fans, and we love watching our team, especially our home team. So we're sucked into this, and they know it. And they're running the business, and we're just the pawns in the game.
You know what else we love, Bill? Tailgating before
we do, and we like the best tailgaters in Philadelphia. Bob Cavanaugh and the gang at Cavs Philly Tailgates.
Yeah, Cav's been cooking up a terrific catering business for 30 plus years. Known best for their tailgate parties, Cavs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cavs does corporate events and parties, too. Lots coming up. They had the Phillies opener a day later than originally planned. And coming up, they have big events before the Saturday and Sunday WrestleMania events at the Link. So outside the Link this Saturday and Sunday, Cavs has great tailgates on the schedule, plus another one at the Link June 8th when Kenny Chesney is there. So you'll find Cav, and you can tailgate with those guys there as well. Order your tickets via the website, phillytailgates.com. Check the site, and if you have questions, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go. And Cavs works with Vince at Philly Sports Trips too. Check them for all the Philly sports trips, be it the Phillies and Mets in London or a bunch of Phillies trips to Boston, Baltimore, Chicago, Pittsburgh this year, a couple of Union trips as well. It all happens at phillysportstrips.com.
Well, hey, Chet, you had a chance to visit with Mike Conroy to talk Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame class of 2024 that was announced the other day, and the Daulton Foundation. Tell us about it.
Well, we've had Mike on our show, as you know, 3 times previously. So you know this, in addition to working a regular job, he does a lot of volunteer stuff with both of those great organizations. And they're both in the news this week, as it turns out, because they got some events on the calendar. So I realized that the other day. And I reached out to Mike to talk all about it. Was hoping to get him on the show live tonight, but he couldn't. His schedule wouldn't permit it. Like I said, he's a busy guy. But he did have a few minutes to talk with me about all of it, and here is that chat. I want to talk with this guy on Philly Press Box Radio, thanks in part because of his efforts at both the Daulton Foundation and the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame, but also because he's just a great Philly sports fan and an all-around terrific guy. We say hello to Mike Conroy. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, Chet, how are you?
Doing all right, man. Mike, we will talk soon about a big Daulton Foundation event coming up this month, but the Philly Sports Hall of Fame is in the news this week because the Philly Hall in the last couple of days just officially announced its 2024 induction class. And wow, this is one of the very best.
Oh, Chad, when we were going through the voting with the voters, they turned out we had higher than expectations with regards to numbers. And the press release dropped, and we've been getting very great feedback in and around the hall. If it's okay with you, I'd love to share some of the names that are going in this year, some of the larger marquee names, Ryan Howard, Chase Utley, Jameer Nelson, Rod Brindamore, Stan Walters, Paul Westhead. We have Jameer Nelson, Andy Talley, Angelo Cataldi. We got Mouth, we got Style, we got Grace, we got everybody in this event. So it's a great event that, right now we're getting organized with regards to ticket sales and things of that nature. The date, November 7th, 2024 at Live Casino. That's a Thursday night. Our website, PhiladelphiaSportsHallOfFame.org, will be the place to buy tickets. Right now we're working on getting all that situated so the fans can come out and enjoy a great induction class.
Full disclosure, Bill Furman and I, as of last year, are voters for the Philly Sports Hall. So he and I did cast votes for several of last year's and this year's inductees, and we're happy to do that. What I love Mike, about the Philly Sports Hall is that, of course, it honors several big names every November, but it also highlights some Philly area folks in some of the, lesser sports in the minds of most people, I guess, like swimming, wrestling, tennis, track and field. This year, for example, field hockey great Alice Putnam Willits from back in the 1940s and 50s, and Haverford High swimming star Brendan Hansen from, just about 20 years ago, the early 2000s. And that is pretty cool that these guys get some, well-deserved attention.
And that's really what we do, Chet. We'd like to keep it well-rounded. So as the voters, drop their bids on the major minors, we really go collectively as a team and really see who's worthy of this stature. We analyze, were they good in their era? How were they in the greater scheme of things? Philly natives. And we really try to bring both the educational sense to the voters, because everybody knows the Chase Utley and Ryan Howard, but to know some of the local stars that have really done, great for the city and really put their name out there. It's just, an all around great event, not only to spread awareness of their accomplishments, but also, as a true Hall of Fame, our purpose and our, marquee is really to ensure that the right individuals go in every year.
You mentioned Ryan Howard and Chase Utley. The Philly Hall inducted Jimmy Rollins in 2022. And this year, his teammates, Chase and Ryan, will both be inducted going in together. That is just pretty cool stuff right there.
We've been now running with the 2008. We had Carlos Ruiz last year. Yeah. So now Chase and Ryan will be number 3 and number 4. We did have Jamie Moyer, but I don't know if we want to categorize him with the 08s. I know he was part of the team, but he was later on in his legacy as a sports celebrity. But,
he
right
led
now,
the team in wins in 2008, pal.
You are correct on that. And he took the mound home, and we haven't been the same since.
Yeah. All right. So that is November 7th. I'm going to be there. You're going to be there. And again, before we move on to the next topic, how can people get tickets for that?
So we will hold a ticket sales on PhiladelphiaSportsHallOfFame.org, and it'll allow you to go in and buy a number of tickets. We also are looking for sponsorships. So, any of the audience out there that's looking to promote their brand, we're really looking for key marquee, promotions to really add your name and branding along with ours and really drive, and make this event special, especially for the individuals that are going in and the ones that show up from years past and enjoy the event year over year.
All right. Now, the Darren Dalton Foundation, which, man, what a great organization that is. I got to a couple of events last year, one up at Von C. Brewing in Norristown, and then the Spring Dinger last spring. And you have another one at the same place this year. It is April 18th. Tell everybody what the Spring Dinger is and who's going to be there.
So the Spring Dinger is an event we're holding in Trevose that's kind of a celebrity quasi-bartending, but really it's just a social. It's bringing in some of the former 93 players. I know Stocker's been confirmed, Milt Thompson, Tommy Green's always there, and some guys show up out of the blue. The 93 team really rallies around Dutch, and they try to make every single event possible. So, this is really a social. It's an opportunity to grab a beer and sit down with a Mickey Morandini or, somebody like a Kevin Stocker and be like, what was it like to be on that 93 team under Fergosi? And, what did Dutch do to you behind the scenes in the locker room when he was icing his knees up? Or, how was Crucky's personality? It's just great to kind of get these guys on a personal level and, just talk shop over beers, and they love to engage. And, it's just really a great event for the Dutch because it's obviously going to a great cause, brain cancer, and 100% of the proceeds go towards families in need and help with their medical expenses. So, you get a taste of, mingling and rubbing elbows with some of the past alumni with the Phillies organization, but you're also helping just a great cause. And, really the stress level with helping individuals and families dealing with this, terrible disease is just overwhelming, and anything that we can do to support them is just great.
And as I said, I was there last year. Wow, what a great event. You had a great contingent of former Phillies there, not just from the 93 team, but, from other eras as well. And it was just a lot of fun. And I wish I could have been with you guys last month. The celebrity bartending event down in Clearwater, that looked like a blast.
Oh, I wish I could make it myself. Unfortunately, my work schedule didn't allow me to do such. But we got John Middleton pouring beers. We had Topper involved, and that was something that we talked to Topper at the Sports Writers, which I ran into you And we got him engaged, and he said anything I could do to help former alumni and Dutch. So those two were out, and then Robert Persons came, and a few other individuals. Ricky Bowe always comes out, Larry Anderson, those guys. It was just, a great event, and it raised so much money. And John Middleton's fantastic with promoting the Darren Daulton Foundation and just trying to get our awareness out. So it was a great event, and we'll be doing another one in October, which you're familiar with. We continuously run events every month, going from, the Spring Dinger on. So, if you can go to DarrenDaultonFoundation.org, you'll see we have a few golf outings coming up. We also have something in the Chesapeake area in September, and then we have our annual golf outing and celebrity bartending in October. So there's ways to get involved. There's ways to be out there for the Dutch to help this great foundation and organization.
And again, the website for that is what?
It's DarrenDaultonFoundation.org. I look forward to seeing folks come out. And if you do go out and you see me, please, tap me on the shoulder, say hi. I'd love to connect. And, it's always great at these events, meeting new people and engaging.
I wanted to ask you one thing about something that happened last weekend on the Philly sports scene. That was, I think, Howie Roseman got the short end of the stick on this one, the trade of Hassan Reddick to the New York Jets for a third rounder or maybe a second rounder if things work out. But I don't like that, Mike.
Chet, I was doing a lot of thinking about this because my official reaction was this guy's a Philly product out of Camden. His stats show he's, well-liked in the area. He really, gives back to the community. And then we're trying to think of why they're making this trade. And I think he wasn't playing in the greater scheme. I think he was going after his own personal numbers. And I don't think, such as the demise of the defense at such time. So it was almost like we swapped with the Jets as far as, defensive linemen, and then we picked up a draft pick in return. So I guess you got to look at it as a phase one, phase two. But, my original reaction is he got fleeced. But, it remains to be seen. I just think that he wasn't playing in the greater scheme, and I think that led to the meltdown last season. But only Howie knows, and they won't spill the beans yet.
Second thing, I know how you love the Phillies. They started off losing 2 out of 3 over the weekend to the Braves. Now they're battling weather issues with Cincinnati in town. What is your take overall, not just on how the season started, but on this year's Phillies? I think the over-under is 90 wins. I said definitely over. What is your take? How's this team going to do?
So as Harry sings it best, high hopes. I always go in with high hopes, Chad. I think we can hit that pinnacle number, 91. I do not believe that they can win the division. I think that's a lofty goal, just seeing the way the Braves played this weekend and just, their team is stacked from top to bottom. It really comes down to that starting pitching. And, Wheeler's going to be an ace. The Nola, you gave him the money. You hope that he performs at least towards the tail end of last year. He can pick it up and run with that. Rangers a question mark, and then you go with 4 and 5. I don't know how that end of the rotation plays out, and those are ones that you need, those 4th and 5th day wins.
All right, Mike Conroy, who does a lot of great work for both the Darren Daulton Foundation and the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Always enjoy talking to you here on Philly Press Box Radio, and we'll do it again soon, I'm sure.
Oh, I hope so, Chet. Looking forward to the next run, and thank you so much for your time tonight.
Well, Chad, I'll tell you what, I thought there for a minute I was going to say, well, that Mike's a smart guy when he said Reddick wasn't playing with the team, and then he turns around and said how he got fleeced. So I'm not sure if Mike's that smart or not. I'll have to give him the business when I talk to him again.
I think you should put that on your calendar, by the way, November 7th.
November 7th, yeah. What night of the week do they usually do that?
Thursday, always on a Thursday, the first Thursday of November.
All right. Hey, speaking of the Phils, you mentioned they got hammered in the first 2 games through the bullpen. The bullpen got hammered. Zach Wheeler pitched a gem on opening day. Then they give up 9 runs. Last night they bounced back. Bryce Harper gets his first 3 hits of the season, all home runs. What do you make of just the first handful of games?
Well, it was a huge, much-needed win last night. Of course, great to see Bryce swinging like he did after the difficult start to the season. Would like to see some of the other bats get it going. Castellanos, for example. Kyle Schwarber, the leadoff man.
You always pick on Castellanos.
He's struggled a bit. But how about Kyle Schwarber, the guy you always pick on? 5 singles and 1 home run out of the leadoff spot.
And that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I will be a Kyle Schwarber fan if he hits 250. I'd be thrilled. And he could still hit 30, 35 home runs and hit 250. That would be magic.
On the other hand, you and I have as many hits as Johan Rojas.
Well, that's not unexpected.
Well, you think he would have had 1 by now. He played, 5 out of the 6 games?
Jenny hit 170 all spring.
5 games.
Yeah, I
know. I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to panic about him or about anything else. Great pitching in the Tuesday night game by Spencer Turnbull and Ricardo Pinto. 4 innings, gave up a few runs, but man, he saved the bullpen a lot of work. So that was much needed. Turnbull was impressive. Remember last week we had Scott Fransky on, and Fransky said, Turnbull could turn out to be pretty good, and he looked good. 5 innings, no walks. We'll take that every time.
Yeah, well, hey, absolutely. Great game last night. Hey, but I did want to ask you, the sitting of Bryce Harper, Bryson Stott, and Brandon Marsh against the tough lefty and Chris Sale in game 2 of the season, and then coming out and saying it was a scheduled game 3, a scheduled rest day for Harper. So let's think about that.
Okay, I'm not buying that. Okay, Topper was telling a little fib on that one. That was because of Bryce having a little collision with the camera well the day before. For whatever reason, he didn't want to admit it. You can't say he had trouble hitting against Sale. He was only 1 for 3 in his career against Sale, so not even a big sample size, and he was 1 for 3. I know you hate when they sit Marsh and Stott against lefties. And I'm kind of with you, at least this early in the season. Maybe later on, give them a day off if it's going to be against a tough lefty. But yeah, not game 3 of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Stop playing all these nonsense analytical games. Put your best players on the field and let them play. That they'll be fine. Marsh is stroking that left-handed pitching right now, so
he is.
Leave them in there.
Now he struck out twice in the Monday game, I guess it was, against the lefty.
But he also had a couple hits.
It was Sunday. And when he came in later in the game, he faced the lefty and struck out twice. But yeah, I like Marsh. I'd like to see him in there pretty much every game. So we'll see. But for me, the pitching is the key. And so far, the pitching's been pretty good outside of Nola not having a great game 1 start. So so far so good with that. I know they're 2-3, but they got to win these games. This is a favorable schedule all of April. So, take advantage of it. Yeah.
The bullpen needs to get settled out. I think that, they did a little better here the last couple games. But boy, they had a rough couple starts, to start the season. They got to get that bullpen in order, get everybody in their slot and see how it goes. And Alvarado is not that guy. Remember, I told you that.
Yeah, I know. By the way, Dave apparently didn't hear the beginning of the show because we did talk about a minute worth of WrestleMania, saying how it's going to be an exciting weekend, going to be great for the Philly economy. The weather hopefully will hold up. I know a lot of people are excited about this, including one of your sons going to be there. So we wish everybody a great time who's going to WrestleMania.
Yeah, well, and you got to say, Chet, with all good love for Dave, look at that little picture he's got next to his.
Let's see that again.
Dave.
Yeah. I know. You're giving too much love.
So, he's a little confused, but hey, we're with you, Dave. Hey, Chet, great guest tonight at Bill Meltzer and Mike Conroy. Who's coming to Philly Press Box Radio next week?
Well, just confirmed actually a couple of hours ago. He got back to me. Next week, get excited, Bill. We have Tom McGinnis, the voice of your Philadelphia 76ers, on the radio as the Sixers get ready to move into the playoffs in some capacity. Tom McGinnis.
Very nice. Looking forward to that for sure. Well, say, speaking of basketball, Chet, March Madness, the men's Final Four is Saturday and Monday. NC State versus Purdue. Alabama versus UConn. NC State's the sleeper here. Who you like?
I think NC State's run ends. UConn wins it all. So, I mean, they've been the favorite from the get-go. UConn's going to win everything. I don't care who wins the other game. UConn wins it all. How about you?
I think UConn's got a great chance of going wire to wire, but I'll tell you what, I really like to see them play Purdue. The big 7'4" kid from Purdue is a beast.
Yeah.
He's really good. Whether he's enough to beat UConn, I don't know. I'm thinking UConn as well. But hey, on the ladies' side, that Caitlin Clark with a clinic against LSU the other night. She even had you watching women's basketball.
I watched a couple of her games now. Yeah, I mean, you got to be impressed with what she's doing. Yep. So, yeah. Wait till you hear this, as a matter of fact. Well, first of all, it was not only one of the highest rated games ever for women's basketball, it was also, I believe, the most bet women's sporting event ever from what I heard. So, I don't know, who won or who lost as far as the bets went, but I heard a lot of money was bet on it. And wait till you hear this now, Bill. Friday night, they play again at 9:30. The women's
Thursday night, isn't it? I believe it's Thursday night, no?
I believe it's Friday.
I wrote
Somebody
down
can
Thursday.
check, but I'm pretty sure it's Friday.
I wrote down
Friday
Thursday.
At 9:30, the second game.
Oh, okay. I'll check. I put down Thursday.
Okay, because I looked it up and I saw Friday and I changed my plans. I was going to go out and see a band as they often do on a Friday night, but I am going to stay home and watch that 9:30 LSU game so I can see, or not LSU, Iowa. Yeah.
So we got NC State against number 1 undefeated South Carolina and UConn versus Iowa. You riding the Caitlin Clark coattails?
I don't know. I mean, we got South Carolina. We got the Philly lady coaching them, right?
Yeah, Dawn Staley.
So, man, I don't know. That's going to be a great final if that's how it plays out.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, and bad business decision by the NCAA not having LSU and Iowa in the Final Four. Playing that game in the Elite Eight cost viewers.
Well, that's just how the seedings went. That's how they set it up with the seedings beforehand.
Well, that's why you got to be smart when you're doing the seedings, right? You want the best teams in there. LSU's one of the best teams. They're good.
Oh yeah, they are good. So but it was a fun game.
It's going to be fun to watch. And Caitlin threw up 41 the other night. When she came out at the second half, it was 45-45 and hit three threes to open the half.
She is amazing. And as you have mentioned before, not only can she shoot, she's a terrific passer. She's a great, view of the court. She just sees everything, and she's just smart and plays well. Fun to watch.
Yeah, she really is. What else you got before we wrap it up?
Real quick, Bill, April 4th, 1964, we're talking exactly 60 years ago, Thursday, the Beatles held the top 5 spots in the Billboard Hot 100. Please Please Me at number 5, and then I Want to Hold Your Hand. She Loves You, Twist and Shout, their great cover. And number 1, Can't Buy Me Love. Not only was that impressive, they had 7 other songs, some of them you see there in yellow, in the Hot 100. So 12 out of the 100 Hot 100 songs were held by the Beatles in, 1964, because that's when it all broke for them. And you know what? They still sound great, those songs, 60 years later, Bill.
Did I see Hello Dolly on that list?
Hello, you might have.
Number 7.
Hello Dolly at number 7 by Louis. You want me to sing it for you? Hello Dolly.
This is Louis.
Oh my.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap this thing up before we start singing again. Let's thank tonight's special guests, Bill Meltzer and Mike Conroy, our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs Philly Tailgates, PPCC 118 Raz Room. For Jim Chechesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll join Philly Press Box Radio next Wednesday, April 10th at 7 p.m. You can see us live on Facebook and on our Philly Press Box Radio YouTube channel, and listen on Google Podcasts as well as Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans.